I'm Joseph Nixon.
And this is Rotten 90s Movies. And this week, our movie is...
It is A Life Less Ordinary.
directed by Danny Boyle in 1997. Murray, can you tell us something about the budget of this film?
Yes, I can. The budget for the movie was $12 million.
So it was kind of mid-budget sort of film then, really, wasn't it?
Quite a big budget.
Quite a big budget at the time. It sounds tiny now, but it was sort of mid-budget move. What would have was constituted a mid-budget movie then? And how did it do?
It made a global gross of $4.3 million.
So it really flopped.
It bombed.
It really bombed. And what were the reviews like? Because I managed to avoid that.
They were
somehow.
mixed.
Oh,
There was a lot of them said it was the worst movie ever made, but a lot of them said that it was it's so quirky and brave and bold, which are words you don't really want associated with your film.
No, well, it was. I remember it being pushed quite heavily.
It was adapted for 2000 AD, the science fiction comic. They did a 15-part adaptation of it or something.
Probably a better job as well.
Yeah.
Well, Cameron Diaz was quite a big star, wasn't she? Because of obviously The Mask. And why did she do it before this?
I don't know. It's something about Mary's after this, isn't
Yes,
it?
it is.
She was
Yeah,
doing quite a lot at the same time, apparently.
Yeah, no, but she was quite big, and obviously Ewan McGregor was big because of Trainspotting.
Yes, which was Danny Boyle's film previous to this.
Yeah, that's right.
So obviously what had happened is Trainspotting had been a huge hit.
Yeah.
And they'd said to Danny Boyle, right, here's a blank check, do whatever you want.
And this was the screenplay writer was the same screenplay
Yeah,
writer.
it is John Hodge.
Who did Shallow Grave and
Yeah.
Trainspotting.
This is obviously the movie that had been percolating in John Hodge's brain, I think.
So the cast, we mentioned Ewan McGregor,
Who plays Robert.
who's a kind of very hapless, down at heel Scotsman dreamer, trying to write a trash novel, working as a cleaner in a big sort of corporation in LA.
And in a very 90s twist, which seems very quaint in these days of AI, he's being
replaced by
these slightly rubbish robots.
Yeah, and Cameron Diaz, who plays the spoilt rich daughter of the
industrialist,
the industrialist stroke CEO, stroke magnate, stroke corporation owner, who's played by Ian Holm. And there's who else is in this? Holly Hunter and
Delroy Lindo, who play these
as
angels or archangels or
and there's what's his name? Fella from
Dan Hedaya.
Blood Simple
is he's the archangel.
Chief Gabriel.
Chief Gabriel.
It's meant to be obviously the Archangel Gabriel. And there are various other big parts. Can you remember Murray?
Stanley Tucci.
Murray Simon, our producer, ladies and gentlemen.
Stanley Tucci is this dentist in it. He's
kind of rival suitor. He has been a suitor of Cameron Diaz, wants to marry her. Yeah. She's almost like Portia at the beginning, isn't she? And
Ian McNeice.
Yes, who plays the kind of butler, stroke retainer, stroke bodyguard, stroke ne'er-do-well, stroke hitman for Ian Holm.
Timothy Oliphant. That's the hitchhiker.
Oh, I forgot about the hitchhiker.
Yeah.
Which was a very strange part.
Okay, right, now the plot of this film doesn't make any sense at all. So if we very briefly...
Well, try briefly, it opens up in heaven, which is actually a sort of kind of cop precinct, isn't it?
Yeah.
Something out of Serpico.
With everyone in white, brilliant white costumes.
Yes. And Chief Gabriel, because it's meant to be obviously the chief inspector or whatever.
He calls in Delroy Lindo and Holly Hunter and says, "Listen,
so the big guy
is sick to death because men and women aren't falling in love.
Yeah,
like
there's lots of divorce and it's not really any true romance.
And for some reason, what they need to do is they need to make they need to make these two fall in. They need to make Cameron Diaz and Ewan McGregor fall in love.
And why? I don't know. I don't know why this is. Is this meant to sort of percolate out into wider society? Anyway, this is the ultimatum they have. If they don't make them fall in love, then the angels will be banished to Earth forever, to remain forever.
An idea that they hate.
Yeah, even though it doesn't seem appreciably different from the heaven they inhabit.
Well, no, I was wondering, you see like hookers in the opening sequence, being booked. Are they like heavenly hookers? Do you think?
Indeed, they are.
Or are they people who are hookers on Earth and now are being judged in? Because I mean, if there are prostitutes in heaven, then presumably there's a sort of heavenly pimp.
I guess this is the idea that this is a sort of kind of holding room. It's sort of like always the pearly gates, really, and this is where the judgment is being made.
Right, so they're being judged.
But I guess. Except there doesn't look like there's anybody there who might get passage straight. Maybe.
If they're in white, presumably there's some angels already, aren't they?
No, it doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any
No,
sense.
you'd think that just the officials would be in white and the people being judged. Otherwise, you've got an angel hooker.
Which doesn't sound like a thing.
Yeah,
really?
you've got
a lot of hookers.
hooker with a heart of gold, of course. That's not the same thing. So
anyway, they're charged.
Start with the heart, I believe the phrase was.
They're charged with making these two people fall in love and are sent down to Earth.
Yes.
Now, the bizarre thing is, when this film started, I thought, this is interesting. They'll be observing, maybe slightly influencing matters in a sort of It's a Wonderful Life, but they're directly involved.
They get directly involved in it. Now, it seems an impossible task to bring these two together because Cameron Diaz is steely and bored and spoilt and super rich.
Yeah.
And Ewan McGregor is
sad,
the most enfeebled, pathetic, sad sack of a man that I've ever seen in this kind of movie. I mean, it's almost impossible to have any degree of warmth or
he's a pathetic, useless arsehole.
Yeah. He can wipe his arse.
I think you said before that it's amazing he's actually managed to find a job as a
as a cleaner.
Janitor.
Hello.
Really, it's amazing that he's managed to survive in LA as long as he has.
I mean, man can't make a phone call,
and he's also they make much of the fact that he's an aspiring novelist.
Yes, he's writing a trash novel, which is what he says he wants to do, and everybody finds this idea of this plot that he puts forward, this trash novel, risible, and also, but the important thing, entirely predictable. Although I've heard that the plot is summarised 3 times, and they go, "Oh yeah, no, it's obvious," and there's nothing at all obvious or predictable about this plot. I mean, I'm not that au fait with the trash novel. You've read loads, haven't you? You've just sort of used to flick through it.
This trash novel is about the daughter, the illegitimate daughter of Marilyn Monroe and JFK, who famously had an affair back in.
And when she grows up, she unlocks some kind of mystery that leads to some sort of hidden national treasure or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah. I didn't think that was predicted. I've never heard that before.
I have never encountered that as a sort of trash novel plot device ever in my life. I've never heard anything like that.
Doesn't make any sense.
3 times this is brought up, and 3 times somebody completes his novel idea and says, "Yeah, it's obvious."
I don't know what that's about.
No, it's terrible. It's bad.
Anyway, so they, for some reason, Delroy Lindo and Holly Hunter, as the angels, who are meant to make them fall in love, they directly involve themselves in the action. So first of all, they evict. They literally evict.
Ewan McGregor is sacked because
he's sacked. And his girlfriend
dumps in, and then they evict him from his house.
Yeah.
They reclaim his. Do they take everything?
They take all his furniture and throw him out.
Throw him out of the house.
They are the bailiffs.
Yeah.
Then
Firm and Fair is the name of the company. Yeah. That though they're angels, they don't manage to make the company that they're going as the guise of look any way contemporary or realistic.
No,
it looks like a deliberate sort of capture.
Yeah, an acquisition.
It looks like it should be run by Lauren Hardy. This firm, but fair repossession company. But anyway, go on.
So they do that, and then what happens in the film is Ewan McGregor, and all this terrible stuff happens to him. He gets replaced by a robot. He's very angry. He's got a gun, so he goes and.
But he's so angry and desperate, although I don't really believe it reaches that point. But he's so angry and desperate, he goes and storms into the offices of the head of this company, Ian Holm, and threatens him somehow.
Give me my job back.
Oh, yeah, give me my job back. That's it.
And she's obviously not going to work.
Yeah, and at the time, Ian Holm had been having an interview with his daughter, who has sort of shot Stanley Tucci, who's this dentist kind of would-be lover. And she's been performed this sort of William Tell trick with the butler, and she says to him, well, she'll consider marrying him or something along those lines. If he puts his apple on his head and allows her to shoot. And he at the very moment before she's about to shoot, he sort of goes, wait. And she shoots him through the head. It doesn't kill him. He somehow manages to get through his skull without killing him. And so her father is saying, well, you've done it now. He's going to sue you. She's not in prison. She's not really immediately had to give herself up to the cops, because there would be some element of manslaughter involved in this, because it's at the very worst, it was
reckless endangerment.
Yeah. So and he's giving her an ultimatum.
He's going to cut her off without
penny. She's going to have to work because she's so spoilt and bored. She doesn't know the value of existence. She's got to find her own way in the world.
So Ewan McGregor storms in, loses his gun. The security guards all rush him.
Yeah, loads of security guards manage to pile in on him. I know they've let him go through with a gun in the first place, but suddenly they emerge from nowhere.
Kicks the gun back to him. He gets the upper hand.
Yes. Shoots Ian Holm in the leg.
Yeah.
Sort of accidentally, kind of prompted by Cameron Diaz.
Whilst demanding his job back again.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Well, he says 1, 2, 3, 4. He says, I count to 5, and then she
shouts 5.
She shouts 5.
And he shoots.
And it makes him sort of jump, and he shoots. And then she has this sort of bad joke about him. Imagining it's because he didn't know how to count to 5. That may be because he was underprivileged, that he hadn't been given a proper education that involved counting beyond 4.
Then she tells him to shoot him in the head.
Yes. Well, somehow, I think the film sort of neatly glosses over this. We go from Ian Holm biting his leg and saying he's going to kill him to McGregor being in the lift with Cameron Diaz, and he's holding her hostage. And they get out. He forces her to drive out of the. She can't drive, but he forces her to. He tries to tell her how to drive as she's going along, and they eventually make their way to somewhere out in the sticks where they find an abandoned.
Well, it's not abandoned, is it?
No,
I guess it's
a cabin.
Cabin. The owners are not currently there.
Yeah,
they
holiday home, isn't it?
Yeah,
a non-occupied holiday cabin.
They break in, and the idea is that the sort of plot of this is that she's much more savvy than him.
Yeah,
she's been kidnapped as a child.
When she was 12, her father let her sweated her out
6 weeks.
For 6 weeks, apparently.
They sent a pint of blood every week.
Yes, that's right.
Which I'm sure wouldn't work, not with a 6-year-old.
So she's not fazed by this. So she's sort of, you get the suggestion that she's almost sort of invited it as a way of escaping from having to do a day's work.
So she's basically in charge. He phones up the dad and he's very pathetic.
She tells him what to do, how to organise.
She says, "No, you've got to be more proactive than that. Threaten you. Say you're going to cut my."
It becomes clear that she's got a plan, which is that she's going to tell him how to deal with the kidnap and to get the ransom, and that they're going to get millions out of her father. They're going to split it, and she's going to get her freedom, and then she'll get him to find a way of evading the father, who she makes it clear is going to kill him. Yes. His threat was not idle. He's definitely going to have him killed and worked out. So she's going to help him survive.
Meanwhile, Delroy Lindo and Holly Hunter turn up and offer their services as bounty hunters to
Ian Holm. who says he wants them. He wants his daughter brought back alive,
and he wants Ewan McGregor dead.
Ewan McGregor dead. Which
and they say
we all do as an audience by this point. We would welcome that.
For $200,000.
Yes.
Yeah. Which he says 100,000 is too much.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
But one of the odd things about this film is that it's sort of a takes the plot of It Happened One Night.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Which it makes explicit reference to.
Absolutely explicit reference to with the hitchhiking scene. Yeah.
But the point of It Happened One Night is that these two mismatched people fall in love.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's right.
And they don't need any angels to make them do it. They don't need anyone.
No. The situation does it.
The situation. And in this, the situation sort of seems like that might happen anyway. They could fall in love.
But for some reason, these angels have decided to get absolutely deep involved in this, and they're kind of,
They're a bit incompetent, aren't they?
I don't understand what they're doing. They're trying to make this situation worse so that the lovers feel that it's like a trial by ordeal, like something like a magic flute or something like that. If they go through these trials, they'll come out as strong lovers together.
I mean, there's a bit where Daryl Lindo is literally, he's going to shoot. He makes Ewan McGregor dig his own grave, and he's going to shoot him in the back of the head and bury him. And I couldn't work out if this is just meant to be to make Cameron Diaz feel sorry for Ewan McGregor, or if he's actually going to do it.
Well, it's to the impression that this is their job.
Yeah, they do this all the time.
Yeah, and they're completely useless at it.
Well, it's one of the many things about this film, because one of the we'll come to this, but properly. But it's one of the many things that just feels like a nod to another better film. You know, the having to dig his grave is. That feels like Blood Simple and Miller's Crossing. You know, out in the woods. It's very real, sort of parasitical film.
This is a film that wants to be all the films that Tarantino's made, and it wants to be all the films
like a cross between True Romance and Raising Arizona.
Yes, it wants to be all the films the Coen brothers have made as well.
Yeah.
And it's very obviously trying for that black, dark, comedy,
quirky. Sam Raimi-esque.
Coen brothers, Sam Raimi, Tarantino thing, and it really doesn't work.
It doesn't work at all. No. Anyway, so we've got they kind of they are handling this handover, aren't they? The angels of the money for Cameron Diaz. And
yes.
This.
I still don't know why they have to be the ones.
It all goes wrong from the angels' point of view, because Ewan McGregor shows some unusual pluck and spunk by shooting out the tyres on Delroy Lindo's car,
and then drives off with the money.
And drives off, having handed over Cameron Diaz to her, who does a bit of play acting about, oh, thank you for rescuing me, and Ewan McGregor drives off the money, but Holly Hunter's angel has foreseen this moment and is lying prone in the road,
being packed,
looking like she's been struck or dying.
So he stops the car.
He stops the car.
Then she attacks him like a lunatic.
Yeah. She pulls a gun on him, doesn't she?
Well, I'm unsure how any of this is going to make them fall in love.
And then they so this was leading up to them being, they're going to shoot him.
They're going to shoot him, and then Cameron Diaz saves him, and they escape with the money.
Yes. And thinking they've killed Holly Hunter.
Yeah, she get pinned by the car against the boulder.
Yeah, that's
right. It's a bit confusing because the angels in this don't seem to have any special powers. They can't fly.
No,
they haven't got wings, and they can't shoot laser beams out their eyes or anything. But they seem to be sort of semi-impervious to damage.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
But not entirely impervious to damage. Apart from guns.
I mean, despite the fact having got the money, they go to get some food because they're hungry, and at a store, and Cameron Diaz finds that her credit card has been declined.
It's her dad's.
And they go, and goes, oh, don't worry, I'll pay for it. Not from the
giant stash,
but just out of his own wallet. And she says, well, and has the idea of robbing a bank.
Yeah,
this is unnecessary. They've got like hundreds of thousands of dollars in a Gladstone bag. But
So-
she robs a bank and pulls a gun, holds a sort of young girl hostage, and says that she's going to kill the girl unless they fill the bag with cash.
Also, she technically, in the eyes of the law, hasn't broken the law yet. Has
Yeah.
she? She's a victim.
No.
So she
So-
goes from being a victim to robbing a bank.
Out of her anger with her father.
Yeah.
So they rob this bank, but Ewan McGregor somehow foresees that unless he acts, she's going to get shot in the stomach and it's all going to go wrong. I don't know. There's no suggestion anywhere else in this movie that he's got any kind of cognitive powers, but or any powers of any kind whatsoever. But he puts himself in front of the bullet, which comes to the security guard.
Shot in the leg.
Gets shot in the legs. So how was she going to get shot in the stomach?
He's not that much taller than her, is
If
he?
he was shot in the leg, anyway. So and
They end up going to the dentist.
because she can't
Sending
take him to
to
the hospital, obviously, because he's a fugitive. He's
They
a criminal.
take
He's
the-
not been apprehended yet. And
The dentist takes the bullet out.
yes, and then while he's recovering, and the dentist is not fully recovered from his
got
wound in the
bandage
head. He's
around
got
his
bandage. He's charged himself at the hospital. There's a suggestion that he's not quite compos mentis, and Ewan McGregor wakes from recuperating and to find that Cameron Diaz and Stanley Tucci are sort of drunk and mucking around in a sort of really quite overtly sexual way, although they're not, he's taking photographs of her posing as a sort of sexy receptionist.
Yes.
And McGregor gets very angry about this, twats Stanley Tucci, presumably on his wound, knocks him out, and they sort of split up. Cameron Diaz gets very angry.
She says something like, I suppose you want to marry me, or something like that.
And he says something like, it wouldn't be the worst idea. And I thought, yes, it would. It would be the worst idea. They have they're completely incompatible, this couple.
So they split up. He sort of storms out of the car, or does she storm out of the car? I can't remember which it is.
Oh, who cares about this?
And then the film does a very odd thing, because what happens then is she goes off to a hotel and he gets a job in a bar. Despite the fact that he's a fugitive, he must be all over the news.
Kidnapped a
presumably.
famous heiress.
He's robbed a bank.
Yes.
In fact, they both robbed a bank.
Yes.
No one's recognised, despite the fact he's the only man with a
But
Scottish
he's
accent. in the whole
swabbing the
movie.
deck in a speakeasy. And
So then we just cut back to Delroy Lindo and Holly Hunter, saying, how can we say it? And of course the answer, the way they can say this, is by Delroy Lindo sending her a poem that he's written.
a
very bad poem.
bad love poem.
Purporting to be from Ewan McGregor.
Roses are red, violets are two.
Are blue.
You don't get many
I
of
like-
those in the pound, and that's why I like you.
He's on that level.
Yeah.
So she gets the poem, and then, of course, what happens is what you would have predicted could have happened. She goes to him and says, I love that poem you wrote me. And he says, what poem? I never sent you a poem. Which is obviously what's going to happen.
And she gets very annoyed about all this.
Storms out.
Meanwhile, the two angels who've been pissing about like something out of a cross between Brazil and Delicatessen on the top of this roof, get really desperate because they think, oh God, we're going to be stuck on that earth forever ever now if we don't bring them together.
So they kidnap both.
Decide
Hang on, what happens?
They kidnap
Cameron Diaz.
Cameron Diaz, deciding that
They'll
make
use
their
the
lives
ransom
better
money.
because they can get the ransom
Right.
money.
Now, again, answer money, at least life on Earth will be a little bit better.
Rather weird for a couple of angels to do, really.
So, yes, and they...
But Ewan McGregor tracks Cameron Diaz down, and there's a sort of fight, and he's just about to tell her that he loves her, when in comes the butler, the Ian Holmes butler from earlier, shoots Holly Hunter and Delroy Lindo dead through the head, and puts Cameron Diaz in the trunk of his car and takes the bodies of the dead angels and
to the cabin where they're trying to find the money.
takes
aren't
Ewan
they?
McGregor to find the money. Now, Ewan McGregor can't find the money, and at this point, I realised that I didn't know what had happened to the money.
No.
I think it was in the car that drove Holly Hunter over the cliff.
Right.
Right.
I think they left it in the back seat, but they didn't decide to go down the cliff and get it.
Right.
Okay.
And then in a weird nod to shallow grave, he thinks it's underneath the floorboards.
Yes,
But it's
that's
not.
right.
It's not.
So, anyway,
Why doesn't is he just pretending not to know where it is? But does he
Yeah.
genuinely not know where it is?
It's never made clear.
At this point, all the staff in heaven are starting to.
We're
So it's
not
been.
putting up with this.
In the scene, not dissimilar to the scene in Topsy Turvy when
on the stairwell.
the Doily Cart Company say to Gilbert, "No, I think you should put the song back in, Mr. Gilbert."
I mean, surely there have been worse injustices in human history than this, have there?
I
They were
think
fine with-
Gilbert cutting the Mikado song was one of them.
I mean, would they? I mean, did they complain like this about the Holocaust?
I knew you were going to say that.
So anyway,
that's
they go,
fine. They said that's
You've
right.
got to intervene over this.
And Gabriel's talk to the big fella upstairs.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure about that, but he does it, and we don't. We hear God's voice, don't we?
No, we don't. We don't. It was, of course, it should have been. Even if because I think he's probably still alive, they should have got George Burns to do that.
Okay. It's been a big cigar. So God says, okay, and then I was expecting at this point
A miracle.
something like God's hand to come down or something,
But no, all that happens is that the boot that imprisons Cameron Diaz flings open,
and she gets out.
and
Which could have happened anyway, presumably.
and she
The weird
is handed
neighbour
a gun
from
by the
earlier.
weird neighbour up from the sticks, kind of a Hickseed neighbour, hayseed neighbour. That's it. Sorry,
She,
Hickseed. What's wrong with me? I was thinking Hickseed.
So she zooms in
And the
shoots.
corpses start flopping about a
Oh
bit.
yeah.
Yes,
For
but
no reason.
that goes nowhere.
Yeah, it doesn't do anything.
And
She shoots.
somehow realizes that if she shoots Ewan McGregor through the heart, it's not going to kill him.
Yeah.
That he gets a bullet hole clean through his heart that goes and shoots actually in the chest, but not presumably fatally.
The bad guy.
The bad guy. And
it's got a
knocks him out.
Glowing white light coming
And
from his chest.
it's just this great white light because of love or something. And then they get married.
Yeah, it jumps.
And
Well, we should say that we, for the last sort of 5 minutes of the film, it cuts to an extended claymation.
it does.
Of them getting into a car, which then takes off like the end of Grease.
Yeah.
And flies off. And they go to Scotland and spend all their ill-gotten gains on a castle.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
Which was
and then-
mainly done because they'd forgotten to shoot the last few bits of the film.
Yeah, Murray's telling they forgot what happens to the money. When they
forgot to
shot,
go
they
back
realised that
into-
they hadn't explained that, and they couldn't get any of the actors back because they were all involved in new projects. So they had to commission this claymation sequence.
And it ends, and I sigh with relief. Right. So that's the plot, such as it is. General thoughts.
I mean, none of it works, does it? It's full of real sort of jarring shifts in tone. It's full of bits that just don't make sense. There's a bit where they get married and then they walk out into a ticker tape parade.
Yeah.
And people
The
cheering.
ticker tape coming from nowhere.
Yeah.
I mean, you actually you can't just throw ticker tape up into the air and it comes down like that.
No.
It has to sort of be dropped from a height.
Yeah.
I mean, not this seemed to be dropping from a height, but there were no buildings anywhere near for it to drop from. Anyway,
So that doesn't make sense.
that's the least of my worries over this film.
None of it makes sense, really.
No,
it doesn't make sense that the angels would be so involved in it. It doesn't make sense that they've got to get them to fall in love.
The characterisation of the angels, I think one of the films that this is obviously piggybacking on for me is Raising Arizona Coen Brothers. It's very and there's the bounty hunter in that, and there's the suggestion in that he is from the mouth of hell.
Yeah,
He's kind of
He's
conjured forth by Nicholas Grace. Nicholas Grace.
demon.
No, he's not. Is he? Nicholas Cage. It's Nicholas Grace.
Oh, the great Nicholas Grace.
a very lispy sort of Italian.
I love Nicolas Cage.
He's
by the
great.
way. He's brilliant.
Lovely guy.
Tiny
little man.
Yes, I was going to say he wasn't Hollywood leading material, was he? No, Nicolas Cage's dream. He's kind of conjures forth this bounty hunter, but the film is still actually kind of saying that it's a real life flesh and blood person.
Yeah, he can be killed
because he's killed by his own. He's hoisted literally on his own petard.
Yes,
so that's the film I think it's kind of referring to most strongly, and and in fact, I think they cast Holly Hunter as one of the angels.
She was in Raising
because she's in Raising Arizona. And obviously somewhere they thought, wouldn't it be good if we said we have it's rather than sort of this demon who's the bounty hunter. It's sort of angels acting as bounty hunters, but still sort of bad. It's very odd.
Yeah, also the angels owe a lot to John Travolta and Samuel L. Jackson in Pulp Fiction. The black character and a white character who are bounty hunters.
There's very there's a lot of films that this refers to. We mentioned It Happened One Night, which is obviously the model for it, and it feels very much like a sort of film school graduates film.
That somehow got a budget of $12
very
million.
amateurish, very badly put together. Sequences that don't create any kind of tension, that don't sort of lead anywhere, where there's just that sort of endless thumping sort of techno that Danny Boyle put in the hope that he would somehow drive it forward, and he doesn't do. There's an increasingly clownish behaviour, sort of as in the hope that he could kind of manifest some kind of comedy. He gets more and more desperate as it goes on. I know, it's really awful.
It's the worst film we've...
Cameron Diaz's character is extremely unlikable.
She's unlikable. Ewan McGregor's character is just a sort of
totally
wet rag.
Totally
really.
And in a way that's not remotely endearing.
No.
There's the scene with Stanley Tucci where he comes and says, you're going to marry me, and she gets him to do the William Tell trick and shoots him through the head, and then she shows no sympathy or interest or concern for this at all. This is very early on in the film, and it's sort of like meant to set up her character, and you just think, well, she's a psychopath.
She's psycho.
She's actually just a psychopath. There is absolutely nothing likable about her. You could possibly root for her as a character. Even if there's something wrong with you, if you did.
She doesn't grow as a character throughout the film, really.
No, she remains a psychopath throughout.
And he remains a wet blanket.
Yeah, utterly hopeless. And there's no electricity between them. Chemistry.
No, there isn't, is there?
No. And we'll come to that. It's full of terrible illogical things. I mean, why on earth she's not being locked up after she shoots Danny Tucci through the head, I don't know. Why on earth he manages to get a job at a bar when he's kidnapped. None of this makes any sense at all. I mean, I know it's meant to be a sort of silly romantic comedy with supernatural involvement, but there's got to be something.
The only explanation I could think of
anchoring in reality
was that Ian Holm hasn't reported the kidnapping. But then they rob a bank, so that would have been reported, obviously, wouldn't it? So
yeah, and there was sort of there was car chase out in the streets. There were ways that this did impinge on the public. It would be very difficult for him to. I don't know. I just don't think he made any sense at all. He stands out. He's got a Scottish accent. He's got this awful shirt. It's not like the shirt anyone else is wearing.
The worst hair I've seen in a 90s film.
Got this terrible haircut. Presumably he's on all over the news broadcast saying, "Look for this Scotsman. If he gets a job at your bar, please report."
There's the fake leg. There are several things in this that make it just feel like it's like some really low budget sort of student film. The Fake Leg. You know, I can't believe that a Hollywood movie would allow such a terrible prosthetic to be used. It's so awful. And you have the dialogue's dreadful. I mentioned there's a bit where he's meant to sound officious, and then he says towards he who owns it, and of course it should be towards him who owns it. And you think that's such a basic grammatical howler, and it's from somebody who's meant to get that right. And you think, well, no one's like checking the script over there. No one's doing that. There's a kind of basic level of competence that this film doesn't actually meet in any way.
It's the worst kind of dialogue because it's would-be quotable dialogue, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
It's trying to be quotable. Howard Hawks.
Yeah. There's a moment where which is very early on, where the Chief Gabriel tosses the dossier that are on Cameron Diaz and on Ewan McGregor, who for some reason they've chosen as this couple who are meant to come together. If they knew that, then why isn't all this fine about anyway? But anyway,
I don't know.
And as he does so, there's just a moment. It's just a bit of slow motion before the file. And at first, I thought this was a computer playing up when I saw it, and then I rewound it and watched it again. I realised no, this was a stylistic choice, and it was very indicative. It was kind of a little microcosm of the bad style choices made by British film in the 90s. I know this is a Hollywood movie, but it is Danny Boyle directing, and it's very redolent of that kind of flashy for the sake of flashy kind of directing that shows a lack of storytelling and a lack of basic competence, it seems to me.
No, you're right, I think. Yeah. And there was a bit missing, isn't there? The idea is that they're meant to fall in love, but something stopped it, which is why the angels have to intervene. But we never see what it is that stopped it from happening, do we?
No, it
doesn't make any sense.
So best bit.
There isn't one.
No, it's terrible. Worst bit.
I'm going to say the whole ending, really. From Ewan McGregor getting shot and not dying, from then on, it just it sort of gives up, really, doesn't it? He makes a terrible speech about how...
Yes, he really does give up, doesn't he?
Yeah, it doesn't do anything.
It's like Danny Boyle goes, what have I done?
Oh no, I better do this. So Ewan McGregor gives a terrible speech about how he loves her and he's a dreamer, and which doesn't make any sense. And then they get married. Then there's a ticker tape parade, and you're straight into the claymation Reed Petite sequence where
which looks like an Oasis video,
which is terrible.
Yeah,
and yeah, that's it. It's awful.
The worst bit is? My worst bit. Oh, there were worse bits. Can I have two?
You can have two.
Can I? Oh, I'm going to have three. I'm going to have three. One, the scene where the cleaner boss sacks him. I thought it was just awful.
Well, strangely, knowing all about his trash novel.
Or the workmen in the background. It's just, sub Benny Hill. It's awful. Her performance is terrible. Yeah, it's just really over the top. But, she's doing what presumably she was told to do by Danny Boyle. The song, them doing Somewhere Beyond the Sea, the Bobby Darin version.
Well, it's a 90s film, so you have to have...
Yeah, and as I'm watching it, I'm just thinking, I know that they're going to go to fantasy in this. I know that they're going to... The lights will change and there'll be the mirror ball and he'll be dressed as Bobby Darin, and
that's what happened.
That's exactly what happened, completely undelightfully. And the... Otherwise, I thought the whole scene with Stanley Tucci and the aftermath of that, where he's fixing his leg, I thought it was just awful, just really bad. But it's not Stanley Tucci's fault. No, of course he does the job he's asked to do. I mean, I've never known him be anything other than excellent, and he's excellent in this piece of SH1T, as my mother would say.
What's the best performance in this, would you say?
Well, Ian Holmes, not bad. What's his name?
Delroy Lindo.
Lindo's right. He looks uncomfortable when he's having to muck about more towards the end.
He's all right. I think Delroy Lindo's fine.
It's good. He's good. He's fine in it.
Just a job.
My memory. What's so wrong? What was wrong with me?
Dan Hedayas.
Most people. Cameron Diaz. She's fine. I don't know whether it's her performance that makes her so unlikable or the writing that makes her so unlikable or a bit of both, but she's fine at doing this incredibly unlikable character.
Yeah.
They're mostly sort of competent. There's nothing great from
Ian Holmes looks depressed to be there.
Yeah, he does, yeah. So
it looks like he's going to fire his agent. That's what he's thinking.
Yeah.
Worst performance, I'm going to go... There's a lot of bad performances. I'm going to go for Helen Hunt.
No, Holly Hunter.
Holly Hunter.
I'm going to go for Helen Hunt as well. She was awful.
Holly Hunter. I'm getting my actresses. I'm going to go for Holly Hunter, who is film derailingly bad in this, I think.
Yeah, she's awful. I really don't understand what she's doing. I mean,
she's doing a performance that's got nothing to do with the rest of the film.
Yeah, I mean, she can be very good. She does tend to veer towards the over the top, but as I've discussed in another before, I don't mind that. And I don't mind the odd, failure from an actor who wants to push the boat out a little bit. But this is very odd, her performance. I mean, one of the things it suggested is the moment where she seems to be sort of like, well, she's filling herself up all the way through this, all the way through it, and you sort of like there's a suggestion at one point. I think, I know what's going to happen. The angels are going to get caught up. This idea of trying to spread love, it's going to possess them. It's going to awaken physical, real, amorous, fleshly love in her, and the two of them are going to get together.
Yeah.
And they're going to decide to embrace their life on Earth together. They're not going to want to go back to heaven. They're going to be, in this real world, having this
Savouring
mortal love. And that don't happen.
There's a lot of bits that look like they're going somewhere and don't actually get anywhere in this film.
That's right.
And that's one of them.
Yes, that's Saving Grace.
There isn't one.
No, there isn't. Murray?
No, none.
Better films on a similar subject. Better films.
Well, if you're talking about films with angels in, of course, there's It's a Wonderful Life, Dogma.
Dogma's great.
The Hudsucker Proxy, which I know we slightly disagree on. I've always
it's a better film than this.
Yeah, it's a loads better film than this. I mean, it doesn't really. I know that it doesn't work, Hudsucker Proxy, but it works a hell of a lot better than this. And at least it sort of makes kind of sense.
Raising Arizona, of course, which you mentioned.
Could you say Your Brother, Where Art Thou?
Pretty much any Coen Brothers film, I think.
Yeah, I think the one that I mean. Obviously, It Happened One Night is the basis for this, that's the story. I'm just trying to think. Is there any romantic comedy about a kidnapping? It's quite hard to do a romantic comedy about a kidnapping. It's a slightly tasteless subject.
It is really. I just think just watch any Coen Brothers film other than this, because it'll be better. Even the ones that aren't that good are better than this.
Yeah. That's right.
And this film really wants to be a Coen Brothers film.
Yeah, it's kind of got a kind of studied... I know what's quite similar. It does involve a kidnapping. Is Morgan a suitable case for treatment?
Oh, yes.
David Warner. But of course, the kidnapping there kind of is sad. It leads to them just eventually, him just realising he's lost it. He's lost her. That's a crazy film, but I really
David Mercer script.
David Mercer, yeah. Anything? What makes this a rotten 90s movie?
Well, it's got the lead character suddenly singing a song for no discernible reason, and they go into a fantasy sequence.
Yeah,
it's got music all over it.
Yeah, absolutely, constantly. The whole thing's like a pop video.
Yeah,
essentially.
Oasis.
Yeah.
Ewan McGregor. Oasis.
Yeah. Did we mention how bad Ewan McGregor is in this?
He's awful.
Yeah, he's really awful in this. He's terrible. And his accent's all over the place. So odd.
Which is weird. He's meant to be Scottish.
It's meant to be Scottish, but he's got a Scottish Cockney American accent.
He's terrible.
Yeah. And my thing that makes it one nice movie is that it's got a montage sequence at the end to remind you of how much you've enjoyed the movie.
And the claymation thing, like an MTV music.
Yeah, it's got a claymation thing.
That reminds me of what was the Oasis song that Neil Innes sued them over?
How sweet to be whatever.
Yeah. That had a sort of claymation video, didn't it? And when I was watching the clip, I thought this is really like that video.
Yeah,
very similar.
But do you think this film killed the claymation industry?
I hope so.
There's something did.
So, marks out of 10.
I'm going to go. Usually, I'm quite kind to these films, but I'm going to give it a big fat 0.
-1.
Yeah, I'm going to go to 0 on the basis I think if we're going to minus territory, we're in real trouble.
It's a film that you wish was never made.
Yeah, this really took it out of me watching this.
It wasn't a pleasurable experience.
No, there was a point. I don't normally do this because I think it's unfair to the film, but there was a point about 44 minutes in when I was really feeling every minute. I thought I've got to put this on 1.5. I can't get through it. I sped through it because it was so bad. Yes, one word.
Empty.
Yeah, amateur.
Crud.
Empty amateur crud.
So, Danny Boyle, if you need any script writers for your next...
Yeah, you know where to find us? Actors, there's Murray there. He's a fine young actor. He actually has... His voice is a bit like a cross between Scottish and Scottish as well. So you want to use him.
He's taller than you.
And we're available at ABR. So do please be in touch. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Join us next week for another Rotten 90s movie.
Thank you.
Hooray.